Have you ever played a game that managed to hook you right from the start? You hit start and right from the word go it captured your attention, and now you wanted to see it through. Now not every game can pull this off, and honestly in some cases not every game needs an effective hook right away. Some games present themselves with a slower build-up that pays off later on, along with getting better with each passing hour. But when a game has an effective hook, it most certainly stays with you. The first Last of Us is one of the first examples that pops into my head when looking for an example of this done very well. Within 1 hour, we're introduced to some of the main players, establish a relatable chemistry and an emotional connection for the player to get attached to, build up tension that is similar to how the rest of the game will feel, and then have an explosion of spectacle. And all of this ends with a shocking moment that leaves you time to take it all in during the opening credits that follow. Now, like I said, not every game needs to effectively grab you like this right out of the gate, and I unexpectedly found this with the title Sifu, a martial arts game that incorporates a great amount of style, rogue elements, and awesome minute-to-minute gameplay. Sifu hits the ground running and is easily one of the most effective openings of 2022. When you start Sifu, you are not greeted with a flashy cutscene, but rather you are thrown right into the gameplay. You are given minimal instruction to understand the basics of the combat system, how to perform your light and heavy attacks, parrying, along with your takedowns. The player enters a building and you need to clear a room. Your first interaction with this game is its gameplay, and it honestly makes a great first impression. Everything from the sounds to the enemy reaction satisfyingly conveys the weight and power behind each of your hits. As you build up a stun bar from normal attacks, you can then perform a takedown, and these are a real treat as the camera takes full advantage to add in satisfying elements of movement to enhance the actions. Where the camera will normally provide you with the information the player needs to assess the area, the takedown cameras are more dynamic as they move with each of your attacks. Being that this is your first piece of gameplay and honestly the first thing you experience in Sifu, it really shows how the developers are placing a huge emphasis on its gameplay. The story is really great as well here, and we'll get into that soon, but there isn't this uninteresting tutorial where it feels like a slog to get through. You are given the basics and some room to experiment with the fighting mechanics. This is satisfying because of how there is still room for the player to discover stuff for themselves, like different light and heavy combos along with using weapon pickups. The takedowns punctuate each of your encounters with everyone in the room. This opening room makes a promise to the player that the minute-to-minute action is top priority for the developer, and that this will remain that way throughout the entire game. This first combat room was the elevator pitch for Sifu, and yet I had no idea what other surprises I was in for just from the opening. Following this exciting opening encounter, the game brings down the action a bit, as you get to take in some of the beautiful environments that Sifu has as it slowly builds up the tension again. Here we meet a few members of what appears to be your crew, and you're offered some light choice in how you respond to them. While the action takes a break for a few minutes, this allows the story to build up some of the mystery. Who are you attacking? Why are they a threat? Is this a revenge mission? And did you train at this school? These simple moments effectively integrates well into the great gameplay to capture the player's attention from a narrative perspective. Then we hit 2 more encounters where we get to play around with the combat system. First we fight in a kitchen where we get a few weapon pickups to use, like a sake bottle along with throwing chairs at your enemies. We get introduced to a few more controls like dodging as well. What really is a standout in these 2 sections are the destructible environments. Chairs, tables, vases, and other objects all break with wonderful detail. This is another element I was not expecting but greatly appreciated the level of detail the developers put into Sifu's destruction. action, as it makes the fights hit harder and adds a considerable amount of weight to the action. This opening only provides a taste of what action situations will be provided to the player, and it is so compelling. It makes such a strong first impression with the minute-to-minute action that the game honestly could stand on its own with even any of the other interesting mechanics that are introduced after the opening hour.
Stop. Yang, of course.
Now here is Sifu's first boss fight, along with some reveals. We learn that you are attacking the place where you trained, and you are now going to kill your master. I did not know much going into this game, so I was able to experience the story completely blind. As such, I was questioning if this was going to be a game where we would play as a character who is not in the right and more evil. The boss fight is pretty good and features 2 stages to fight him in. What I really liked about this is that at the end of the fight, it's revealed that a child is watching the entire fight take place. It is here where I thought this is who I'm going to be playing as for the entire game. Then the game transitions into the opening credits just like in a film. There is a simple yet effective piece of editing here, where we see the child switch to an adult and the credit sequence is really creative. It is a nice mixture of good cutscenes and gameplay. You face off against each of the individuals who attacked your home and killed your master. What I liked is that you get to briefly fight each of them, as it implies our main character is training for these individual battles. The gameplay is a nice mix of normal fighting and learning useful new moves. In the opening gameplay section, you get to meet each one of these characters, but you never really get to put a name to a face. The credit sequence allows each one to have a bit more personality. For me, this credit sequence is the icing on the cake, and how the title of the game appears at the end of it is simply awesome. After the credit sequence was done, I was completely invested in what this game had to offer, and I still had more to learn and experience, especially pertaining to the more rogue elements. Sifu uses both great gameplay, good storytelling, and a great presentation for its introduction. I love how the game starts you off with a nice chunk of meaningful gameplay. While I do not mind games that start off with a cutscene, Sifu starts out with giving the player control of the action, as you are performing actions that honestly you could find in a cutscene. There's a cinematic style to the action here, along with it having an enjoyable flow as you read enemies' movement and grow with your skill. The hits are impactful from the destructible elements in the level. The sound design for how each of the enemies react to your combos and takedowns is enjoyable as well. The story and presentation help to interweave with the gameplay in this opening sequence, as the game starts off in an attack, and you honestly do not know why you're there or even if you're the good guy. It was a compelling choice to make you play as the villain at the start of the game. You get to see his actions firsthand as you commit his deeds. And then that credit sequence with how it introduces each main villain, along with providing you with some brief information, is a great way to deliver that to the player without it feeling like a chore. The entire opening sequence is a great example of acting as a tutorial without ever feeling like it is hand-holding you. Just enough information is provided and then you're in the main game. From the gameplay to the story and presentation all contribute to effectively hook the player. Sifu has a killer introduction and it's easily one of 2022's best games. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you'd like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.